On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, Zach is back for some more player pairings from Mile High Bourbon and Rye. Let's do this. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. And joining us again, he was here, about a year and a half ago, Zach from Mile High. Right. About right? Yeah, Zach from Mile High Bourbon and Rye is here. And if you tuned into that episode a couple off seasons ago, Zach runs the like I said, the Mile High Bourbon and Rye page on, you're on pretty much every social media platform, are you not?
Yeah, except TikTok. Yeah. I can't figure that one out.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can right now.
Yeah, right.
But
that's true.
Yeah. But what we did with Zach was we had, because he's the bourbon guy, and we had Avalanche players, and it was a fun thing of him giving a bourbon pairing for specific players. So we're going to do that. Again, we have the rest of the athletic fan poll to get to and a few more midseason grades to hand out as well. But the first thing I wanted to ask you, Zach, because the funny thing is you're coming on the show. We were just saying before we hit record that, like, you can probably hear it in my voice that I'm, it's catching up to me, the winter. And a funny thing that, like, my uncle swears by is, like, oh, when you got a head cold or you got a sore throat or whatever, everything's stuffy up here.
Yep.
Don't go to the cough medicine. Take a shot of bourbon, and that just clears everything out.
Now you go high proof whiskey, and you're gonna be feeling much
and you're
better.
Fine. So you swear by that too?
I do think it works really well. And so, fun fact: one of the episodes I did not too long ago with a distillery here in Colorado with Snitching Lady, he does open tank fermentation, so it allows like all the pollens and stuff to go into the tank and then help that fermentation along. But if you've heard that, eat local honey to help with allergies and stuff, we were thinking all that stuff comes into the local whiskey. It's going to help you keep you healthy. So I'm totally subscribing to that. I'm all in.
I didn't even think about that aspect of it.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
And full disclosure, he did not tell me to do this under the age of 21, by the way. Just want to put that out there.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't work if you're not 21, so don't even try. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't put it in your Stanley and go to work with it either.
Yeah. Before we get into the pairings, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of like reintroduce yourself to people who maybe didn't catch that last episode that we did about it. What you do at Mile High Bourbon and Rye, because I think the last time you were on the show, you were going to just start getting into the podcast world as well.
Yep.
I think it was either right around that or right after it or right before you had started. It was during that time, but what's been going on since the last time you were on?
Yeah, so I just started when I joined last time, and so I'm still doing that pretty regularly. I get about one episode out a month just based on timing with guests and then also having a full-time job working for a school district, like we kind of talked about, so that takes up a lot of time. But the podcast has grown pretty significantly. I've had a really good time talking to people, and not just in the liquor industry. I've spoken to a guy who helps create the trails and everything for Boulder County. I've spoken to a photographer who's a Army vet, spent a lot of time overseas. I've talked to an architecture firm, actually, that specializes in craft distilleries, and that's like what they help build. So kind of a lot of cool pieces like that. Get to keep meeting and talking to more people. So like you said, kind of introduce myself. I'm the host of the Colorado Craft Podcast by Mile High Bourbon and Rye, and really the focus of it is anything crafted in Colorado. So I'm Colorado native, born, raised, live here through and through. Support all, everything that's made here in the state. And a few years back, 10 years back now, 11 even, goodness, that was a long time. I tried a Colorado bourbon, but when I first tried it, I didn't realize that bourbon was allowed to be made outside of the state of Kentucky. I was very quickly told, no, it just has to be made in the U.S. That kind of led me down a path of learning more about just distillation in general, different rules, how things are processed, and then I ended up liking it so much and liking the product that I tried so much from Colorado and not thinking that we were even allowed to make anything like that, that it sort of led me into, hey, I didn't know about this, so there's got to be a lot of people that don't. And I think the awareness of it has grown significantly since I started. Not all credit to me, but like 85%.
That's a good percent.
But yeah, no, in all seriousness, I think it's grown a lot, but I think there's a real good opportunity to focus on a lot of the stuff that's made locally in, especially in like my neighborhoods or even just all across my state that people otherwise don't know about. And I love hearing the stories. I love the learning the why behind and being able to speak to everybody. So I get a lot of that on the podcast episodes too.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful concept. Like you had an epiphany about the distilling process, and you took that epiphany and you're allowing that same epiphany for everybody else around in the Colorado areas. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
Well, let's dive into this now, and even if you're not like a bourbon or whiskey drinker, I think you'll still get some enjoyment out of this, because last time Zach was on here, he crushed it. Like the ones that we did, it wasn't just like there's a reason behind. I'm so excited to hear why you paired the bourbon or whiskey with the player. Because you had a lot to live up to, because the ones you did in version 1 were awesome. Who'd we do? We did Cale McCarr. We did the Colorado team as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. Who else did we do last?
Nathan McKinnon, Ray Bork, and then Jared Bednar.
We did do Jared Bednar. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So for this one, we got 4 of them that we're gonna do. I figure let's start with the oldest guy first.
Okay.
And that's, we did Joe Sakic last time, you said, right? We did Sakic. So we got to do an oldie again, and we got to go with Patrick Waugh. So what do you got for Patrick Waugh?
For Patrick Waugh, and I've got all 4 of the bottles I chose sitting here behind me as well.
Oh, nice.
So for Patrick Waugh, we went Laws. This is the Origin series, and it is the rye release. So this is a rye barrel. Hopefully that comes through on the, Wow. So it is part of their, they called this particular Origins release Cornerstone. And I thought that was very fitting for Patrick Waugh, because really you don't have the franchise that the Avalanche become without that trade for Patrick Waugh in the first season of their existence. You definitely don't win that cup. Everything doesn't grow to kind of I'd even say there's a little bit of almost mystique to the Avalanche story, just based on the traded. I know they were established in Quebec. I know that, there was all of that, but coming to Colorado, getting that trade for Patrick Waugh really became the cornerstone of the franchise. And then eventually becoming even the coach for a couple of years. I would say, I know he made a lot of people mad when he just sort of walked away from the team with real short notice and gave us, but that also gave us Jared Bednar. That put us into the position that we're in right now. So I'd still call that sort of cornerstone. Plus, this is a straight rye whiskey. Rye has a tendency to be a little bit more hot perceived, spicier for certain. So you got a lot of that. But this guy has aged for a long time. About 30% of this bottle is 9 to 10 years old. And with that age comes a little bit more mellowness. And with his current tenure with New York, he's definitely mellowed out some. So I think this bottle sort of fits everything for Patrick Waugh.
That is genius. That is freaking perfect.
That's incredible. And then pull up the last episode we had you on and chase it with the Jared Bednar.
Yeah.
Which was also a Laws bottle. Was Bedsy. Yep.
It was. Wow. Look at that. So if you eventually are a coach, a bottle of Laws might be in your future.
Very well could be. Well, and the coaches too. I mean, you saw the presentation from that bottle. Laws does a great job, especially with their limited releases. Every coach behind the bench is typically really well put together, and I think Colorado's coaches have done a really good job of always being very sharp looking behind the bench. So Laws always works for that as well.
Everything about that was like from the bottle, even the. I mean, if because that came in like a sleeve, right?
Yep.
That came in like a. I mean, if your whiskey or bourbon's coming in another box, doesn't that just add might be like, I don't know, 20, $25 to it? Like,
yeah, 100%.
all right. So if it's in a box, chances are it's good.
Yep.
Good rule of thumb right there. So, all right, that's perfect start. Let's move up the timeline a little bit, and we'll get a crowd favorite in here right now, and that is Logan O'Connor.
Excellent. So this one, I bounced back and forth between probably 3 or 4 bottles because LOC is one of my favorite guys. Like I've been a huge fan of him when he was playing for DU, when he signed with the Avs. I'm just all the way through and through. But there's one thing that I've really noticed about him is sometimes when he's skating down the ice, he's so fast, he's so aggressive, he's got so much energy. There's a couple of moments where, like, even his skating style, I'm like, oh, McKinnon, nope, that's Logan O'Connor. It's, he's just got that much energy. So I went with the Mash Bill Black, which is a bourbon whiskey finished with Kona coffee beans.
Yo.
So
we were just talking about coffee before we went.
Yeah, we were indeed.
It's great.
And so again, the go aspect was why I finally settled on the Kona. There were a handful of bottles that I was, again, kind of going back and forth on, but the coffee finish just felt like that matches the energy that I see from Logan O'Connor night in, night out, because that puck goes, like, if I was going to try to keep up with him, I would have to down 30 coffees just to even have the energy to match him on one shift. But even further than that, Mash Build is put together from, so the guy that makes this, he actually doesn't distill it himself, but he does purchase all of the whiskey and then blends it together to make the Mash Build. That's hence the name of the distillery. I think Logan O'Connor has some of that. Again, like, he'll fly down the ice and you might mistake him for Nathan McKinnon, but then he's back behind and he's got a crazy forecheck, something like Val Nichushkin sticking with Avs. But then he's getting himself back down the ice and being a full 200-foot player like, some of the other defensemen that we have. And so it's, he's built from all of the kind of best pieces I think that he's found in his game, and he's put those together to make himself into, like you said, a fan favorite and just an absolutely terrific all-around player, but with plenty of energy behind him.
Wow.
And that's incredible. That one I love, and I'm gonna have to look that one up. That's a coffee.
We have everyone that you're doing is Colorado based, right? Or
yeah,
no?
Every whiskey is from Colorado. Yep. Right. At least some way. Like I said, the Mash Build, he does source some of the distillate from other distilleries and sometimes out of state, but he blends it all together, he finishes it, and then that's, so, I'm still counting that one as a Colorado product.
Sure. Now, when coffee finds its way into things, sometimes it like, because I love coffee, and I enjoy bourbon. Is the coffee taste in that overpowering, or is it just like the subtle hits, which also could be Logan O'Connor as well, as just subtle, sneaky kind of player?
So I would definitely say probably more the subtle, sneaky. For the whiskey, when I sampled it the first time and then subsequent times, I kind of had that same thought in my head. It's not like a hot black coffee that's kind of right up in your face. It's a little overpowering, maybe a little bitter. It's a lot more like you let it cold brew in your refrigerator overnight and then poured it on ice. And I mean, especially you serve this one on ice, which I would totally enjoy just anytime. Logan O'Connor's got ice in his veins, so it works perfectly.
I love it. All right, we're 2 for 2. Why don't we get our break in, and then when you come back, there's 2 more that we're going to get to. One might be bittersweet for some people, so hang tight, and we'll do that. And the deep breath. I think you know who it is.
Oh yeah,
we'll do that next. All right, first, let's hear from Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, each with a 1-ounce serving. Has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller longer. Has there ever been a whiskey that puts pistachios in there, Zach? Is that you ever heard of that before?
I don't know if pistachios, but a Colorado distillery did do peas, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a pistachio.
Okay. If not, there's your calling. Make it.
Yeah, that might be the key. I'll hit up Wonderful Pistachio, see if I can get a still start.
There you go. There you go. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com right now to learn more. All right. Yeah, peas.
Yeah. So
is it any good?
Branch and Barrel Distillery, yeah, they do some fun stuff. So real quick for them, if you ever go to the distillery, if you find yourself in Colorado, they have a roll your old fashioned. So you sit down at the bar, they give you a little tray, they give you some dice, you roll the dice, and that determines what goes into your old fashioned. And
what do you mean? Yeah, so if I rolled like is it 2 die or 1 day?
I think there's 2 or 3 die. It chooses the whiskey, the syrup, and then the bitters. Whoa, and so you'll get a combination of them based on the numbers you roll.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. It's a blast, yeah. But they did one, and they fermented and then distilled a mash with peas and made the bourbon out of that. That was such a good whiskey. I only tried it at the distillery once. I should have bought a bottle. I thought about it. I was like, no, I need to save a little bit of money. Nope, should have bought it. It was so cool and so one-off, yeah.
That's pretty wild. All right. Okay, I reached out to you. This was maybe a couple months ago. Just like, hey, planning stuff for the 2 weeks off for the Four Nations, and then we started spitballing on players that we were going to pick for this time around. And we said then Mikko Rantanen.
Yep.
And then obviously we know like what happened. He gets moved, and we were talking afterwards, and you were like, should we do somebody else? But we decided not to. We decided to keep it with Mikko because that could add something here. That could add some flavor to this. So we're going to stick with Mikko. Go ahead. What do you got for him right now? Did it change at all, though? How much did it change?
The bottle that I picked is the one I'm still going with, but after the trade, I have a second bottle that I'm going to bring in at the end. Almost like I'm trading for the pick here. So the bottle is actually awesome. The one that I'm sipping on this evening. Okay. And it is from Bear Creek Distillery out of downtown Denver. Boom. And this is their first batch of their 8-year-old bourbon. Handful of reasons that I picked this one, and we're going to go through them mainly from before the trade happening here. So it's got a good punch to it, but it's not, like constantly always in your face. Like I think Mikko's quietly been a superstar, and I say quietly, like he's gotten a lot of attention. The national media notices him, but he's just like, he's not talked about like McDavid or Crosby or McKinnon or Makar. And I love that Colorado has 2 of those 4 names on that list right there. Mm-hmm. But Mikko just quietly sort of constantly delivers excellent quality. The 8-year, I think, is exactly that same kind of thing. They did a big release for it. I don't think it was necessarily quiet in whiskey circles, but if you're not, like, again, you're not Buffalo Trace, you're not Lagavulin out of Scotland, so you're a little more quiet when you're a Colorado whiskey, but phenomenal bottle. Does just about everything right. It's, smooth. It's got, like, great to sip and everything like that. Big-bodied, like Mikko would be as well. Right. And real easy to just kind of have wherever and whenever you want, much like Mikko sort of could go anywhere on the ice that you needed him to, especially in the offensive zone, and it would work out. And then, as I was picking this, again, before we even knew this trade was happening, I realized this is the first 8-year release from Bear Creek Distillery, so I was so sure 8-year contract extension coming in for Mikko. And I had that, and I had it lined up, and I'm like, would have worked out so perfectly. But then they had to go in and trade. So I've got that one, by the way, the Bear Creek comes in a tube as well.
There you go. Extra money.
So you know it's good.
Yep.
But I swapped it, and we trade out for the Colorado Distillers collaboration. The reason being, You've still got Bear Creek was part of this 7-distillery collaboration. This is an all-wheat whiskey. It is absolutely phenomenal, but the big thing with it is this was a one-time deal. Like, we had it, and now it's gone. This is all that I'll have left of it, much in the same way that reverse retro Mikko Rantanen jersey is all that I'll have left.
Oh man.
So
you're just like leaving it on the shelf and
yeah,
picking your spots of when to have it.
Exactly. It'll get finished one day, but I mean, this was a really cool project, and so it was also kind of sad that it's only been the one time. I'm sure there'll be more stuff like this in the future, but there'll never be this one.
Right.
And, you know, we'll have more players, we'll have more point scorers, but there's only one moose.
And you know,
genius.
you might get lucky, and they might be tasting this now, and they're like, you know what? I kind of liked that other taste, and they could go get that 8-year age that you were wanting.
Yep.
Just without the tube.
Yeah. Exactly.
That too. Now I thought maybe is whiskey big in Carolina? Like, do they have?
So there's a couple of distilleries out there.
Yeah.
I don't know particularly any off the top of my head, but I do know there's a lot of whiskey drinkers. I mean, the South in general,
Sure.
you just kind of associate with whiskey for sure. Actually, I know of one distillery, but I don't know of any whiskey out there. It was in South Carolina. We went and visited, and it's called Chattooga Bell Farms. And I actually thought about bringing that one on, but it's like a Muscashine is the bottle that I have on the shelf, which is Muscadet grapes and then distilled into a moonshine. And so I thought about it, but I liked the one and done feel of the 7-distillery collab a little more.
Yeah.
Great pick.
And I think we all know whiskeys in Carolina are just not as good.
They're
Just their arena.
Hey.
Well, and you know, unfortunately, if you send a really solid whiskey that is looking like a good 8-year, it might not live up to the hype right away once it gets into Carolina.
There you go.
But here in Colorado, it's still very, very appreciated.
Oh man.
And we'll never forget 2022.
I think all the Carolina fans just hung up. That's
Get out of here.
Yeah.
No,
They know
so
I'm
here's
here.
the thing.
Yeah.
Like, Netchis is awesome. I love that we picked him up, but I mean, Mikko might be in a slump. He's gone through slumps with Colorado. That dude's going to bust out of it. He's going to have such a good career wherever he lands.
But isn't it great though? Like after 8 games, like Avalanche fans are just over the moon about Marty Nashis, and then 8 games in Carolina, they're like, should they trade him again?
I know. I saw that article.
We don't know.
I don't like the list of teams that was in that article, but
Yeah,
I know the Rangers were in there. Who else was? I think
Utah.
Dallas was in there.
Dallas and Vegas were 2 teams I saw.
And Utah was barking pretty loud too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll have to see. So, one more to get to, and we got to get to the captain.
Oh yeah.
We didn't do Gabe last time, so we'll finish it off with Mr. Landeskog. What do you got there?
So before I grab the bottle, this one ended up working out really nicely. I chose this before I poured a glass for myself the other night. I'd tried it. I decided this was the right whiskey, and then the other night I was sitting there. I poured another glass and I looked at it and I was like, "This is really blonde colored," and so that just fits even better. So in the glass, it's very blonde, much like our very nicely haired captain.
Right. I wouldn't know what it's like, but go ahead.
The big things with this one are it does pretty much everything right. It's in like all of the flavors are how you want them to be, but there's almost just a little bit kind of unexpectedness to it. It was a little lighter maybe than so one sip I took and I'm like, wow, maybe it's a little too light. It's not quite as full bodied as I want it to be. But then the very next step, I'm like, wow, no, actually now it feels a lot more full bodied. And so it really does kind of go back and forth where Landeskog, can have those silky mitts and move the puck down the ice, but he can also plant himself right in front of that net and block the goaltender's vision, provide a perfect screen, and get that tip in again with those just, perfect glove hands, just moving that stick right into position. But then the name of this whiskey is certainly the one that I think more than anything else is the reason that it's got to be it. So out of Windsor, Colorado, which is a little bit up north if you're not familiar with it, is the Heart.
Ooh.
And so Gabe Landeskog,
Yeah.
even having missed 3 seasons now, is still very obviously the heart of this team. I mean, the big hat after every game right now that goes to the player of the game in the locker room, I've heard that was purchased by Landeskog, and then, each game it's been presented to somebody. So you've got something that is like Colorado through and through. It can surprise you even on like subsequent sips from the same glass, but you still know that you're getting something absolutely excellent no matter what. And then it just fit kind of perfectly for what it was.
That's the 200-foot player of bourbons is pretty much what you're saying. Wow.
Yep, exactly.
And it tastes great after 3 years on the shelf.
I was just...
Well, actually, let's see here.
Oh, Kyle, you had to. Kyle was holding on to that.
It aged for over 2 years, so it's sitting at about a 3-year aging process. There you go.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is perfect. Oh man. So I'm trying to think ahead, and I this is where I want to get some input from people in comments or even on subtext. Definitely, who should we do next? Because we're gonna do these in the off season, but with the 4 nations and the 2 weeks off, like, hey, let's get Zach on now. But we can do another one in this off season. Why not? So
absolutely on board.
Who would you want to do next, Kyle? Anybody that's
start preparing the profile on Sidney Crosby. Let's go ahead and get the
since he'll be playing for the Avs. I think that'll work perfectly when his name's on the cup under Colorado at the end of the season. I think I like that.
That'd be great. Oh man. So all right, so that's that's our version 2.0 of our player pairings, and Zach, once again, knocked it out of the park, dude. Knocked out of the park.
Thank you.
Love it. You're sticking around though, because we're gonna get to this fan poll over on The Athletic. We got through about half of it yesterday. We got through the rest of it now, and then some grades we'll finish up with. So do all that next. All right, so let's get to this Athletic poll. We got to the fan poll that they did, and we got to some like questions yesterday of who's been the biggest surprise, who's been the biggest letdown, which was a big discussion between Kyle and myself, and over in the go ahead.
So on the biggest disappointment, I gotta say, I totally understand. I think I gotta agree with Kyle a lot more on this one. Because I don't think Buffalo can be a disappointment when you don't expect anything from them. You can't be disappointed by something you're not expecting anything from. I don't think the Avs were a huge disappointment this year, and it surprised me kind of how high they maybe were on that list. But I think I can't consider Buffalo a disappointment because I just don't think they find a way to Buffalo it every year.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. Like it's just like every year going into saying like, well, they have all the pieces, but so they should be better. And then they just you're just it's the same thing. It's kind of like Ottawa, but now Ottawa's snapped out of it. And they're in a playoff spot right now. You expect that from I shouldn't say you expect it. You think it could finally be the year where Buffalo turns it around and they just don't. So
it's like Bednar and the Jack Adams. He's the best coach. He's just considered that way.
We'll get to that. We will get to that here in a minute. So we'll get through. We won't do all of these because some don't pertain to the Avalanche. But one was which player will win the Hart, and it is between Draisaitl and McKinnon right at the top. Draisaitl does have the edge, 30.7% for Draisaitl, 29% even for Nathan McKinnon. After that, Connor Hellebuck in third, then Connor McDavid, collection of other players, and then Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, Nikita Kucherov, Kirill Kaprizov, and Cale Makar is on there at 0.8%. So
fitting.
And well, I'll bring that up in a minute, but you know what? And Kyle and I mentioned this the other day. Like, I think, I do think Nathan McKinnon's going to be in the final 3. But if things progress the way that they are, I just feel like it's going back to Draisaitl because they gave McKinnon his last year. Not that he's had a bad year. He's had a great year, but I think they're ready to give it to somebody else. What do you got, Kyle?
I do want to hit you with an Uno reverse card on that one because with all the pomp and circumstance and fanfare around the Four Nations. I wonder if that's going to boost Nathan MacKinnon's heart appeal just a little bit. This big public stage, like drawing the biggest numbers, like you're getting all these new fans and like this new hype. And Nathan MacKinnon had a 2-goal game the other night. And like he, to the eyeballs of the world right now, looked like one of the better players in the entire tournament. So when you resume hockey, you're going to get more eyeballs on Nathan MacKinnon than you would have before. And I think that might give him a little bit of an edge when it comes down to this Draisaitl MacKinnon thing, where you thought, well, they gave Nathan MacKinnon the heart, they might lean Draisaitl, but now Nathan MacKinnon is carrying so much for Team Canada. I feel like it might go back to a thank you for all you did in that tournament. Here's your back-to-back.
Interesting. What do you think, Zach?
That actually makes a lot of sense. I think that could absolutely push it in his favor. Because like you said, I mean, the Four Nations, MacKinnon's come out and he's shown out to the point where Edmonton fans have been upset at how well he's been playing, which is a whole nother thing. But I mean, I agree. He does a really great job. I think the other thing MacKinnon's going to have going for him down the stretch here is how well Marty Necas plays and how well Mikko Rantanen does with Carolina. Because if Mikko continues to have a little bit more of a drop-off and Necas continues this upward climb that he's been on, I think it's pretty easy to say, like, all right, clearly MacKinnon can elevate other people, which, in my opinion, makes you a more valuable player. For an NBA comp, Jokic brings everybody around him up. That's why he keeps getting the MVP. I mean, ridiculous numbers, but they both put those up too. So it's the ability to help out your team, and I think Mac does that more than Draisaitl, in my definitely not, burgundy and blue colored opinion.
Of course, yeah.
I think that's a great equivalent. The Joker MacKinnon. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Kyle, to your point of could the Four Nations push him, get him in the lead if he does a lot in this game, in this final? Sure, definitely. That just increases. If he gets a hat trick or something in this game, pushes them to the victory, then yes, you're even going to get more of what he's already, how well he's playing already. You're going to get more of that. And you're right. Like every little bit helps. Remember last year, it was between him and Kucherov phoned it in for the All-Star skills competition. And we were all like, hey, that could have a negative effect on him. Who knows if it did? Maybe one or two voters it swayed. We don't know. But, it is benefiting MacKinnon that he's playing in the Four Nations right now, and Draisaitl is not.
100%.
Yeah. Moving on to the Rocket Richard. This is Draisaitl in a runaway, 80% to Draisaitl. MacKinnon is next at 4%. So I can't really disagree with that. I'm sure that's
it's hard to.
Yeah, that's going to be Draisaitl. So we'll move on from that one. The Norris, this is interesting because if you go back to the Hart, if you heard me say Quinn Hughes is at 4.8% for the Hart of fan voting. For the Norris, Cale Makar is winning this at 42% to 37.5% for Quinn Hughes. So make it make sense. Like, how do the same people who are voting on this think that Quinn Hughes has a better chance at winning the Hart over Cale Makar, but Cale Makar can win the Norris? I don't really get that.
It doesn't make sense, but you had to put Vancouver in there somewhere. So congratulations. You got your name on the list, but that's all. And honestly, this year, Cale Makar is the better defenseman. I don't care what you say or who says it.
Mm-hmm.
Cale's definitely the better defenseman this year, far and away. I mean, there's no question about it. His defensive numbers are phenomenal. His offensive numbers are phenomenal. He's playing across the board just some of the best hockey we've ever seen. So it's really hard to argue that. My thought on why maybe Quinn Hughes has an edge in MVP is because Quinn Hughes is that much more important to Vancouver than Makar is to Colorado, which is insane to say because you put Makar on any other team and he's like the most important player pretty much on 30 other teams in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know like why this whole argument between Makar and Hughes needs to be, well, this guy's better and the other one is garbage. It's like why does that have to be the argument? Like they're
Quinn
both.
Hughes is so good.
He is. He's awesome, and he's a likable guy. It's not like I'm sitting like he's got this like terrible attitude or anything like that. He's a great player. But when you have this discussion, it's like, my guy's better. Your guy shouldn't even be in the conversation. Stop it.
Like, he could save Team USA.
It could. I want him to play. Like this whole thing, like, oh, another guy needs to get hurt. Why? Just if it's best on best, he's one of the best. Let him play.
Right.
I don't like this whole rules thing. I'm just for the birds. I don't know. I don't want it. Selke Trophy. Yeah, that's doesn't really pertain to the Avs. Barkov is going to win that. He's like the new Bergeron. He's going to win that every single year until he retires. So he's got like over 50% of the vote. So he's going to win that. The Vezina. Yeah, 88% Connor Hellebuck. He's far and away, but the he's going to take that home again. He could not play the rest of the year and probably still win it. But I just bring this up because our guy's not even on here at all in Mackenzie Blackwood. Not even like a 0.5%. I don't see him on here. So
give it time.
And I know like this was, I think they tell you when they sent this out, and I think it said like it was like mid-January. So he was only with the Avs for maybe about a month or so. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
Looking forward to next year and seeing where the numbers even. If Hellebuck keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be the Selke winner of the Vezina Trophy like year after year. The guy's just that good. But
in the regular season,
valid.
Touche.
It is a regular season award. So
it is.
It should be his basically every year, but he's got to prove it in the postseason now, I think.
Yeah. And Logan Thompson's on there in second place at 5.8%, and he's having a incredible year, and he's just nowhere going to touch this award, which is just bananas. So
if they continue this, he should be mentioned in the heart.
Hellebuck?
Logan Thompson.
Oh, well, I mean, but I don't think you can put him over Hellebuck in the heart, though. You know what I mean? Like
when it comes to importance of the team, I think it's 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Like Logan Thompson burst on the scene and is the reason where the Capitals are where they are.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's fair.
The Jack Adams, Spencer Carberry, 55%, well deserved, well earned, should win it, probably will win it. I have zero problem with that. My problem is always just the lack of notoriety for Jared Bednar. And he's not on here anywhere. Dave Evison is at 16%. You have John Hines on here. Kyle's favorite Rod Brindamore is on here. But you don't like, even in the other receiving votes thing, you don't get Jared Bednar, and I will just pound the earth until this happens. But my hope is fading.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Just insert my comments for the last 3 years. It applies here. It's just like I don't understand. And Spencer Carberry, didn't he play for the Knicks? No. No, it's the cool news story of the year. Everybody, this is great. This is wonderful. Just rename the award. It's not the best coach of the year. It's the best new coach of the year. And I'm kind of over the award.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You're right in that it's the best new coach, and because everybody's like Sheldon Keefe's going to win it. Sheldon Keefe's going to win it, and I'm like, what? The dude just got fired. Just because he's with a new team, suddenly he's the best coach in the league. All of a sudden, like I just, but he's not on here either. So it's nice to see a shift and giving it to a guy who was deserving of it finally. What do you think, Zach?
I agree. I think the list doesn't sound terrible to me. It sounds like people who are deserving to be in the mix are the ones who are up in the top. The big thing with Bednar being left off year after year, I mean, and I know I've listened to Kyle say this many times, is he's literally played more players than any other coach has, I believe, again this year. I think there's one team above them, but I think they're number 2
is
in
there now? Okay. Man games. I think there is, yeah.
But I mean, you're literally having to figure out a way to make AHL guys come up, gel with your NHL team that just can't seem to stay completely healthy, and you're still finding a way to be not only a playoff team, but a threat to go deep in the playoffs. So, yeah, the Jack Adams, I mean, Bedsy deserves way more than he gets. I agree. I don't think it's ever going to happen, which is a shame.
It is. And again, it's not something where I'm like, he should be winning it year after year, but he should be a guy that's getting numbers, that's getting percentages year after year.
100%.
So just doesn't make sense. And that's really it, because the last one is for the Calder, which, we got nobody. And Celebrini is running away with that. He's got almost 66% of the vote for that, and probably will win that. So, that's it. That's it for the Athletic fan poll. I think they'll do another one in the off season, which we will likely cover as well. So, the last thing we are going to get to is the midseason grades. We're knocking these out 3 at a time alphabetically. So we'll go through the next 3 on the list. All M's in the last name. We got Josh Manson, we got Keaton Middleton, and we got Casey Mittelstadt. All right. So let's start with Mr. Josh Manson, sir. Kyle, let's see. What's he got for stats this year? He's missed a few games, but he's got 43 games played, a singular goal, 12 assists for a total of 13 points. He's a -9 on the year, plays a ton of minutes, 18-12 average time on ice. Shooting percentage of an abysmal 1.8, but hey, he's not really known for that. But what do you got?
C+. Josh Manson is a C+. Like, you've seen him do better, you've seen him do worse, and like there are nights that his effort's there. There are nights that I forgot he was even on the ice. He's a C+. He's not costing the team. His effort's not terrible. It's just you would like more. You know more is there. You're not getting it. And the effort you're getting is a C+ effort. So C+ for the Manimal.
What do you think, Zach?
I was going to put him in a solid B, maybe a B-. I was kind of teetering in that range because I think his injury obviously caused him some problems earlier in the year, and he wasn't, even when he was playing, he wasn't playing to kind of his standard. I think he started to pick that back up a bit. He's never going to be the big offensive points number, but some of his advanced stats put him up in the top of Colorado's defensemen compared to, some of the other guys. So I do agree. I think we can expect more out of Josh Manson, but I think we're getting still a solid effort and solid play out of who he is.
I think this is it. I think this is what we get. He's not just going to like hit this growth spurt and then all of a sudden be like this incredible player. He's good. I think he's a good player, but Kyle's right. Like if a game starts and Manson is noticeable and has some good shifts early on, he's going to have a good game. And the opposite is true. Yeah. If he struggles, if he makes a bad turnover, it just, I don't know if it gets in his head or whatever the case may be. We've seen him take silly penalties before. A guy that plays the style he plays, you can live with that sometimes if it's not in like a crucial clutch situation. But he's, one of the lone muscle guys, except for Keaton Middleton, which we're going to do here in a second, but on their back end. So you were hovering B-. I was hovering C+ B-.
Okay.
And I don't know what I'm going to take both of them.
Go B-. We'll go B, C+.
So be in order. All right. I like it.
Yeah, perfect.
So, and I just mentioned Keaton Middleton. He'll be the next one that we do. Kind of a surprise of, how many games he's played. I don't think anybody really expected him to play 27 games to this point. Just 2 assists on the season. Still looking for that first goal. He's a +1. 10:41 average ice time. I'm interested to see what you guys think of him because I don't think anybody's really expecting him to be kind of a constant in the lineup when he eventually got a role thanks to injuries and stuff like that. What do you got?
I got, and I don't want it to sound bad, but it's a C- for me. For Middleton, he started out rough, but then he found his role, and he became noticeable to where I remember us talking about him in post games, where I was like, did you notice Keaton Middleton out there? And how many times do you stop in the middle of talking about the wonderful stars of the Avalanche, and you just say, hey, Keaton Middleton looks really good out there? Like you don't get to do that with a lot of other players. So he's found his groove, and I'm curious to see where he could. But his start to the year had him hovering around D, so like almost like what is he doing on the team kind of thing, like how Shellington was for the beginning of the year, where you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
There were some bad games, but he's found his groove, which is a lot. Where we've had some grades where we're like, we know there's another gear, we know you could do better. You haven't found your groove. Like Middleton has found that. So I'm giving him a C-, and I expect this to possibly be like a B- by the end of the year if he continues on this trajectory.
Okay. Zach?
All right. C- was mine for Middleton as well. I think he's done. If you'd have asked me this like 2-3 months into the year and the couple of games that he kind of played earlier in the season, I would have said exactly like you said, like, why is he even on the team? He's definitely a big body. He's definitely got that presence. I think he's shown enough promise and he's started to pick up kind of to the speed of the rest of the team that I'm feeling better about him, and even hopeful that there might be kind of that next step he can take and move up just a little bit more. I'd like to see maybe a little bit smarter puck plays at time with him. I think he makes some rough decisions on occasion. But I think that's going to be because he's still a young guy, right? He's not.
He is.
Trying to think how old he is.
He's 27.
No. Yep.
He's 27.
Okay.
Believe it or
So
not. Yeah.
not as old as or as young as I was thinking, but
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like he can grow a little bit more into the game. He's got that body to play solid, though, in the role that I think they want him to be, which is almost a Josh Manson-esque role. I mean, kind of similar expectations, I think. So if he can continue to pick up that pace and go quick, like he's shown he's had a little bit of ability to do that better, I think he can grow a little more, but C- is where I'm sticking with him as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys in the C minus flat C range. I think like he's like a refined Curtis McDermott.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he,
Yeah.
but I feel like if you had a choice between McDermott and Middleton, I think you would go with Middleton because like he can, he won't make so many just egregious errors like Curtis McDermott did.
And he can move.
Right. Yeah, he does. For a big guy, he can move.
He's got that mobility a little better.
Yeah. So I think maybe he wasn't even expecting to play as much as at this level at the beginning of the year. So maybe he was a little bit deer in headlights in the beginning, but I'm with you guys. I want to see how this plays out for the remainder of the season. Another guy who we were talking about someone on the other day, Kyle, about, the break came at a good time for them. And he might be one of those guys like, hey, I just got a ton of games under my belt. Now let me just sit back for a couple weeks, kind of like reassess, see what I did right, see what I did wrong, and correct some of that stuff and go out and finish up the season strong. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And just like McDermott, like Bednar loved McDermott for some reason.
Yeah,
always threw him out there. And it's the same for Middleton. He really likes Keaton Middleton. And I think it's just the size. And you've heard Bednar talk about just size of guys, especially when he talks about Mackenzie Blackwood and, his just the difference between him and goalies from the past have just been small. So he likes the bigger statured guys, which is weird when you play on a team that's kind of undersized, but they rely on speed. And I think Middleton's got a little bit of both of that. So I think he's happy with it. So, yeah. You were going to say something, Kyle.
Oh, no,
you're chomping at the bit for the next guy.
Yeah.
Hey, we ran out of time. We can't do it. No, I'm kidding. Casey Mittelstadt. I'll just say, be nice. We're a PG show. We're a family-oriented show. No harsh language. Go ahead.
I'm going to say flat C.
All right. I always thought you were going.
But this Casey
There's an asterisk.
Yeah, he was a D plus.
Okay.
Like he got demoted. He had terrible games.
Sure.
He had it was abysmal. He's worked his way up to a flat C, and everybody's like, your reaction, oh, nice. No, this is a 2C. This has been a problem for the Avalanche for like we have said, oh, we found our 2C. A C for a 2C is not a passing grade. You need to be better. So yes, a C is technically a passing grade, but we need more than that if you want that role. So it's a nice grade, but not a nice evaluation.
All right, Zach, go for it.
That's fair. So I gave him, I will admit, my gut reaction when I saw his name come up here was not a great grade. I was going flat D, and kind of for the same reasons that you just laid out. You came in last year and you set an expectation. I mean, we dropped Bo Byram to pick up this guy, which was a huge deal, and kind of got rid of an excellent defenseman and one of the fan favorites. But then he flashed and he showed like, okay, this is what a 2C should be. This is what the team's been needing. and then for whatever reason this year has just sort of imploded. And so I went D because I do feel like I need that 2C level of play again, and he's just nowhere near it.
Mhm.
Kind of the saving graces that kept me from sticking with my gut reaction of F was he's played all 57 games, or like most games on the team. So he's constantly available, which availability is a skill, and it's a very important one. So I had to give him some credit for that. And I do feel like over the last couple of weeks, he's been a little bit more noticeable with a few more intelligent plays, some good passes, even a couple of good shots, like sees the shot opportunity and doesn't just defer to somebody else, instead took it, which that's a
Mhm.
team-wide issue right now. But like seeing him kind of take those steps is why I did actually have to look at him for a minute and be like, no, you can't just be angry. You got to look at what he's doing. And that's why I couldn't go up to C. I had to give D because I am expecting that 2C play.
And I will echo exactly what you guys are saying. Yeah, my grade for him is a solid C, and I'm with you guys saying like it should be better, because when you came in here to be better than that, has he been as horrible and putrid as people online want to make it seem? At times, sure. At times, is it all the time? No. He has those moments where but you want those moments to be more, and you want those stretches to be more. I didn't even give you his stats. I mean, he's got 9 goals and 23 points on the or 23 assists on the season for 32 points.
I don't need the numbers. I have eyeballs.
But that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's two different things. Like number wise, he should, when it's all said and done, he should be over 40 points for this year for a 2C guy. That's in the low end for a 2C. But you want your 2C to be in that 50 range, maybe 50 to 60 range at the high end. And he's going to be close to that. But it's two different stories. It's the numbers that are on the paper. And are you getting those just because of the team that you're on? And then, some of the things that you've done in the game, which you just smack your head, because he can handle the puck. He's very good at handling the puck. He's very good at facilitating the puck. He's a great passer, but it's in the head right now of, am I going to screw this up? And if I screw it up, it's going to be a bad screw up. That's the hump that he's got to get over right now. What kind of?
I know you were talking about his low point total, like it's on the low end of the range. Usually, if you're getting that kind of point production from your 2C, he's compensating it for on the defensive side or the playmaking side, and that's just not there. So it's just not an acceptable point total either. So you're expecting like, oh, at least he cleans up on the forecheck. At least he does. You don't have that rebuttal when you say, but he only has, but he also does. There's none of that with Mittelstadt. So,
but you've seen some of the passes he makes, though. Those are airtight, paper thin passes, and I care. I care, because that just shows you that it's the potential is there. Keep doing that, but we just falter and then trip over the blue line.
Kiviranta almost had a hat trick, and I'm not going oogly googly eyes over it.
Well, that's an anomaly, but I get what you're saying.
What's the anomaly with Mittelstadt? Good passes.
He makes some passes where that just make your eyes bug out of your head. Like he's got it.
There's other things that make my eyes bug out of my head.
No, I know.
It makes those good passes even sweeter. You're like, hot diggity dog.
I know.
You can play hockey.
I know. So we'll see where it goes. That's what we got. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for today. So Zach, why don't you throw out where people can follow your pages and your podcast or all that stuff out again?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I got one more little piece to do real quick, too, because I've been working on this that I'm going to throw out. So you guys and everybody who watches your show gets sort of a sneak peek.
Yeah.
I found this idea, or I came up with this idea between a couple of things I saw on Twitter, X, and then also by doing the Avs pairing here. So started pairing Colorado Spirits with albums. And so been looking at that. So the one that I'm going to release this with in my first pairing that I'm going to officially do, chose this one specifically for you, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, because I know you're a Pearl Jam fan.
Oh, boy.
And so Pearl Jam's Versus is the album that I chose there. And what I went with, so this one is particularly kind of a personal anecdote, which is why I think this pairs so well for it. But growing up, I spent a lot of time out in Maine with my father. So out beaches sometimes, hanging out at the airport because he was a pilot, flight instructor, playing a lot of guitar. He used to play guitar. I learned how to play from him. And he always would play like Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town, and then a couple other ones. So like started listening to that music a lot. But I also associate kind of that beach and everything vibe with it. And so what I chose is Snitching Ladies Distillery's Lady on the Beach, which is a Colorado rum. And I think it fits kind of that vibe that I have from spending the summers sitting out there. And it's just, rum's got kind of that relax during the summer sort of vibe, which goes real well for me with verses. But then there's also the line to open up Elderly Woman Behind the Counter is, I seem to recognize your face.
Right.
And you don't think rum when you think Colorado. So if I didn't tell you what this spirit was, you would take a sip of it and be like, I seem to recognize this, but I just can't place it.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I love that so much.
Haunting, familiar, yeah. I can't seem to place it.
So
wow.
I'm working on those. I'm trying to get some graphics together. I've been putting that together for a minute, and so I thought this would be kind of a cool place to debut that, and figured y'all would appreciate it.
I love it.
So cool. That is so cool.
And he's wearing a Backstreet Boys shirt as we're talking about Pearl Jam.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the spear, baby.
So, but yeah, if anybody wants to check this out, I've got a YouTube channel. Just look up Mile High Bourbon and Rye. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all of them. Just search Mile High Bourbon and Rye. You'll find me across all of those. Podcast comes out about once a month. I've got a couple episodes lined up here with some cool guests. Working on interviewing Ryan Nagley, who was a master blender for Boulder Spirits for a while until just recently. Cool. His whiskey just took home some big accolades at the World Whiskey Awards. And then Root Shoot Malting as well, which is a malted grain company that sold to distilleries and breweries all across the state and then created their own whiskey with their grains as well. And so looking to interview them coming up, working on Branch and Barrel. Got some cool stuff coming down the line. So check me out, follow there. You can subscribe to the email. I haven't sent one out for a minute because life got a little hectic, but I kept up on everything else. So, and then we are looking to do some tasting events this year too. So you can come do that. And as with everything, you can buy my glasses on the website. You can join the tasting events once those are out, and everything that I do will end up donated back to Colorado charities. I'm still focusing on Paw Prince Pet Rescue, which is a new one opening up out in Brighton, Commerce City area, and so we're getting that set up. Help all the pets that need a place to go, and yeah, I mean that's kind of the big goal. Is I want to support everything Colorado, even when it's coming back into me, it's going to go back out to two different people throughout the state. So we'll keep doing that as things go. So yeah, give me a follow, subscribe to my channel, but subscribe to this channel as well if you're not already.
Yeah, like it's a great page because you put some stuff up where I'm like, oh man, that looks like you get like into like tours that you take pictures of, and like you put up these things, and I'm like, oh man, that looks like a really fun place to be right now. I'm kind of jealous that he's there. No, so you get in some behind the scenes stuff, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, I'm hoping to have a couple more of those. I'm not sure if I can do it yet, so I'm not really going to put it fully out into the universe, but I'm hoping to have a couple more behind the scenes things coming down the pipeline this year.
Very nice. Awesome. All right. So that will wrap it up for today, everybody. So thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow. Anything going on in the Avalanche Nation, we'll be talking about it here. So for Zach from Mile High Bourbon and Rye and Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We all just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby is that much closer to being a part of the Colorado Avalanche.